GamingBolt presents 15 amazing facts you probably don't know about Activision. Activision has the massively popular Call of Duty franchise, and they're part of Blizzard and Vivendi. They've released massive games like Destiny and Guitar Hero a few years ago, and they're even involved in Sony's remasters of Crash Bandicoot coming next year, and the 007 GoldenEye remaster from a few years back. They have their fingers in a lot of different pies. The point is, Activision is one of the biggest video game companies in the world in terms of revenue, but despite that, there are probably a few secrets you probably don't know about them, and a few secrets the publishing giant doesn't want you to find out. In 2015, Activision had $4.5 billion on hand. By June 2015, Activision had a substantial amount of money on their hands. How much? $4.5 billion. Most of that came from years of staying at the top of the market with Call of Duty and World of Warcraft, which is owned by Activision Blizzard. To put that money into some context, that's enough to buy 75 million copies of Destiny, which, by the way, had the highest budget of any video game ever. They spent $3.6 billion to purchase mobile developer King. Earlier this year, Activision decided to spend some of that money, $3.6 billion of it, to acquire King, the mobile developer behind Candy Crush. But wait, as if that $3.6 billion wasn't enough, King actually cost even more than that. An additional $2.3 billion came from a loan thanks to the likes of Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Merrill Lynch. In other words, this deal couldn't have been any scummier. Activision is 9,000 employees strong. It may sound hard to believe for a company that mostly publishes games, but Activision employs over 9,000 people. They have offices in 21 countries and 7 US states. Activision casts a wide net. We're talking everything from janitors to executive producers and CEOs. Chances are any producer in the gaming business long enough, they'll have worked for Activision at some point. They're the first independent game developers and publishers. Back in the days of the first video game consoles, if you wanted to make games, you had to make a console first. Everyone from Atari to Mattel to Midway were making first-party games exclusive for their own systems. But Activision changed that when a group of former Atari employees started making their own games and selling them. They started with Pitfall in 1982, and the rest is history. Major League Gaming. Major League Gaming may be little more than meme material these days, but it used to be the big leagues when it comes to esports. Earlier this year, in 2016, Activision purchased the league for $46 million, and will now exclusively use Activision games such as Call of Duty and Destiny. Activision netted $990 million in final quarter of 2015. Destiny may have come out to a lukewarm reception, but it, along with Black Ops 3, made Activision very rich at the tail end of 2015. Thanks to the two hot properties, they took in $990 million in the fourth financial quarter alone. Even if Destiny turned out to be a failure in the long run, Activision has more than made up for it with how much dough they took in at launch. The highest gaming user base belongs to Activision. With the purchase of King, Activision claimed the record for the publisher with the highest active user base in gaming. That's not just in the United States, we're talking in the whole world. Reports estimate that across consoles, PC, and mobile gaming, somewhere around 500 million people play an Activision game a month across 196 countries. That means more people play an Activision game in any given month than there are living in any country except for China and India. Activision was once Mediagenic. In 1988, Activision changed their corporate name to Mediagenic. They did so as they were breaking out of the gaming business and began producing other forms of computer software. They operated under the Mediagenic name until 1992 when they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and changed their name back to Activision. During that time, they continued producing games for the NES and Master System under the Activision name. As Mediagenic, they produced business software such as Focal Point and Business Class. They were formed by Atari developers in protest. One day, a group of Atari developers left the company after getting fed up with how they were treated. This group of 4 programmers demanded they be given credit for their work, as well as royalty payments. When Atari CEO Ray Kassar said no, they quit and founded Activision. Instead of making their own console, however, they stuck with what they knew, Atari 2600 games. They were the first company to give their employees credit for their games, and also gave employees royalties based on sales. Activision Blizzard bought their freedom. From 2007 to 2013, Activision was owned by Vivendi Games, who also owned Blizzard. Vivendi merged the two together into Activision Blizzard and created a juggernaut. However, in 2013, Activision purchased 429 million shares at an estimated cost of $2.34 billion. This allowed them to become an independent studio once again, and drop Blizzard from their name. They own 19 studios and have shut down or sold 32 more. If you think EA buys and closes a lot of studios, you haven't seen anything yet. Activision currently owns 19 active game studios, including Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Raven Software. But if you think that's impressive, wait until you hear how many studios they used to own before they shut them down. 32. That's right, Activision purchased and eventually shuttered 32 different studios, such as Infocom, Neversoft, and Red Octane. 3 studios were lucky enough to escape such a grim fate and were instead sold, including Massive Entertainment, who went to develop Tom Clancy's The Division for Ubisoft. Activision purchased the studio for one sequel. In 2000, Activision made an equity investment in the studio Grey Matter, formerly known as Zatrix Entertainment, for one purpose: to develop a sequel to Wolfenstein 3D. The sequel ended up being Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which Activision co-distributed. After its release, Activision purchased Grey Matter to work on Call of Duty United Offensive, before merging them into Treyarch. $1 billion from unknown studios. In 2005, Activision acquired 3 new studios: Vicarious Visions, Toys for Bob, and Beanox. Since the 3 studios started working under Activision, they've generated revenue close to $1 billion working on various Guitar Hero and Skylanders games. Vicarious Visions, the main studio behind Skylanders, will be working on the Crash Bandicoot reboots in conjunction with Sony. West and Zampella vs. Activision. Jason West and Vince Zampella co-founded Infinity Ward, along with Grant Collier. In 2010, Vivendi fired both men from the company. Activision CEO Bobby Kotick would go on to say that the two were planning on breaking their contracts and essentially stealing money from the company. West and Zampella say they have no idea why they were fired. 46 employees at Infinity Ward sided with the two men and quit the company in protest. After the release of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, West and Zampella sued Activision, saying the company didn't pay them the royalties they were due. Somewhat ironic considering the roots of Activision's history. Eventually, Activision would countersue them, at which point 36 of those 46 former employees sued Activision, which led to Activision suing those employees' new publishers, EA. Eventually, a private settlement was reached in 2012. The details of the settlement are not known to the public. Bobby Kotick saved Activision. In 1990, current CEO Bobby Kotick purchased a 25% stake in Activision. The company was still using the Mediagenic branding outside gaming and were doing poorly. Kotick filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with the company and restructured the publisher, ridding them of the Mediagenic brand and refocusing on gaming. He became CEO in February 1991, and took the company from being $30 million in debt to one of the biggest gaming companies in the world. Like this video? Why not give us a like and subscribe? We try and upload amazing videos almost every single day. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.